Welcome to Women, Wine and Wisdom. I'm Naomi.
I'm Jummy.
And
today we have
a special guest.
Prince.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Prince Nicholas. Yeah.
So today we have Prince with us, and we are going to be talking about essentially all things property and how to kind of get into buying your first property.
Yeah.
Nay, I'm gonna let you kick us off, but first,
let's just cheers,
because it's not working.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of people I feel were quite hot on this topic. We did get a lot of feedback from you viewers asking us to talk about property and how to get onto the property market. We are based in the UK, although some of the theories may still apply overseas, wherever you are from. But this is specific to the UK rental market, property market. But yes, Prince, if you could give us a little backstory or top tips on what you would say people need to consider when first looking at buying a property.
I mean, for me, it's a bit more broader than just I want to get onto the property market. I think, especially with today's climate and how things have been this last couple of years, before buying a property, I think people need to really take stock and think, is it something I really want to do? And I feel like in this country, especially, there's a big emphasis on property ownership.
Yes.
It's like the pinnacle of success.
Yeah.
I want to own my own. I want to own my own home. And that's great. I mean, for anybody who owns or aspire to own their own home, I think that's a great achievement. However, these last couple of years has taught us that we need to really think about things before we make that first decision.
Yeah.
Whether it's the best time
to
start investing in property.
Yeah.
Where you plan to be in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And also the affordability aspect of it. Because there's a thing of just because you can technically get a mortgage, you technically have the deposit to buy a property.
Yeah.
And you think, I can make the monthly payments. There's more things involved in it.
Okay.
So really taking stock and thinking about, can I actually afford this? Or can I pay my utilities? Can I pay my council tax?
Yeah.
Can I pay my mortgage?
Yeah.
Can I still support my lifestyle? Can I still afford to go on holiday? All these things you need to consider. And if you can, comfortably, great. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I can just about do it, then you kind of have to start maybe rethinking, because utilities are up.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Refinancing people's mortgages going from £700 to £1,500, from £1,500 to £2,500.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So just simple fluctuations in the economy can have a huge impact on your affordability.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say initially.
I think it's difficult because obviously, like you said, people associate buying a place with success.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth? I mean, back in the days, maybe it may have been. Do you think it's worth, if you can get a property, even if you might struggle to make those month-to-month payments, is it still worth doing it now?
I think everybody's circumstance is going to be different.
Yeah.
But for me, if it's going to be a struggle, now it may not be the best time. But again, it's down to the individual to think about whether or not it suits them. Because I think there's also that element of, but if I don't buy now, it's going to be more difficult for me to buy later on.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
Property at the moment, especially in London, prices are ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for most people, it's like, let me get on that ladder. At least I've got it. I can hold on for dear life. Do you know what I mean? Because over time, you hope that the property value is gonna go up.
Yeah.
You hope the economy is gonna stabilize and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can, great. If that works for you. I mean, I know some people who've chosen not to buy a property and to rent because they feel like the money that they have is better suited to other investments at the moment. You know. But if you do choose, now is the time, and I do want to get on a property ladder, and I think I can afford it, and I can make the sacrifices necessary. It's also that element, and I'm not trying to talk people out of buying property, but it does indenture you, if that makes sense. So once you have that mortgage, the responsibility aspect goes through the roof.
Yeah.
You aren't as free to make reckless decisions as you may have
100%.
previously,
100%.
That's your biggest, people call it an asset, but for a period of time, that's a huge liability. You need to make that
Payment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all your efforts are for nothing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you're both property owners.
Yeah.
So you understand once you do purchase a property,
Yeah.
how has your life changed since
I have
you
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't just be like, oh, today, I mean, I want to say, I can't just fly out. Debatable. But there's certain things I know that with my finances, I just will not do. There's certain sacrifices I just know that I have to make because the payments need to be made at the end of the month.
Absolutely.
And no one's going to come and save me.
No. And that's the thing. It's part of, I guess, adulting. You know,
Yeah.
you have to make certain sacrifices. When you're younger and you're still living at home, you know food is still going to be on the table or in the pot, you know. But when you're living by yourself, you own a property, there is no, like you say, Jimmy, there's no one that's going to come and save you. So if you don't decide to cook, if you don't decide to do food shopping, then it does have an impact. It is a lot. I think moving out, and I've had this conversation with some of my younger cousins who are desperately wanting to move out of their family home. And I say to them, you know, take your time because there is a massive financial commitment. You know, you can't just, like you say, go on holidays and take those spontaneous trips. You actually have to plan out your financial year to understand how you can spend your money and, you know, where you're putting your money. And like you say, because of the, you know, based on the economy and based on certain changes, like the utility bills going up, that could have an impact. That's now an extra £100 or £200 that you have to put aside. Yeah. Whereas that may have gone into your sinking funds.
Oh, yes.
Check
talk about it.
Video on sinking funds.
Yeah, I was going to say something, but it's kind of skipped my mind. I was going to say, no, it's fine. I remember now. So the thing is, if you live at home with your parents, though, do you pay in a different way?
Ooh. Speak on it.
Because, do you pay in a different way? Yeah. So, like, me and my mum are the best of friends, but we don't live together. Do you see what I mean?
And when you live together, you're not the best of friends.
It's not necessarily that we're not the best of friends, but, I mean, like, we can butt heads sometimes because we're the same person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, live at home for as long as you can and kind of save money, but some cultures, you're spending money to live in that house. So if you're not spending the money, you might be paying with your mental health as well.
Yeah.
So it's debatable.
Again, it's going to be down to each person to you know, work out for them what's a better solution. But staying at home, yes, you're going to have issues with clashing with your parents, right? You may have to contribute towards the bills and whatever it is. I mean, if you were renting, it'd be the same situation, right? But having that luxury, and I'm going to call it luxury,
it is
to stay at home whilst you hustle to try and get to a position where you're comfortable. I mean, I feel like we didn't take advantage of that
enough.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I mean, when I was at that age, I was really on that hustle mentality. I need to do that. I wasn't even thinking, I have a great situation. You know what I'm trying to say? I could have been a lot more risky with things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
If I just decided to.
Yeah.
Stay just a couple more years.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I left home, my earning potential then, looking back, was, I don't know if you swear, but it was shit. I wasn't earning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes, you know what I mean?
With time.
Each year that goes past, you earn more money.
Yeah.
Right? So you, for an 18-year-old, I don't know how much 18-year-olds earn at the moment, but let's say you're earning 1,500 quid. Staying at home a couple more years or a few more years, you could be earning 3,000 pounds. Yeah. You're saving a lot more. You're putting a lot more away. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And also, before we go back to first-time buyers, another thing you should think about if you are staying at home is maybe putting that money into an investment property first.
I was just going to say that,
Tuck.
You know what I'm trying to say? You're at home, you're comfortable, you're doing the whole hustle thing. Invest in a property which is going to give you a regular return.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about that just quickly before we go back into the first-time buy-in. I mean, not for me, but for everybody. What's the difference between an investment property and a residential property?
Well, a residential property is a property that you are going to live in yourself. The mortgages are completely different. So if you're going to a bank for a mortgage and you tell them, I'm looking for a residential property, it has to be a home that you're living in. If you decide you want to then change that into an investment property, you have to notify the bank, they change your mortgage. Investment property is just that, as the name says it, it's a property you're purchasing as an investment to give you a profitable return. Is the hope.
What is the difference in percentage in deposit that you would have to put down for residential?
For residential, so for a residential mortgage, I think it's as little as 5%. depending on what type of property you're purchasing, and also your circumstances. So it might be 5% for somebody else. It could be a little bit more than that. For an investment property, you're looking at typically 25%. So it's a huge difference.
A huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But with a residential property, that is an asset because it's bringing you in money.
Yeah. And if you're staying at home, you can afford it.
Yeah.
If you stayed at home for a long period of time and you're earning a decent salary, it's something that's definitely affordable.
Yeah.
You know?
What is is the process different for?
It is a different process. So, I mean, there's a huge array of different types of investment properties. Yeah, you can get a buy to let.
Yeah.
You can get a property for service accommodation, HMOs.
HMOs is in home of multiple
House of
occupancies.
multiple occupancy.
Exactly. And there's a whole load of others, commercial mortgages. So the rates typically for an investment property is going to be higher because it is more risky.
Yeah.
You know? Rates at the moment, I didn't check in the last, but for me, the last time I was speaking to my broker, and we're at the moment in the process of trying to refinance a property.
Yeah.
I'm looking at about 5.1%.
Okay, wow.
As the interest rate. If it was a residential, it would, 2.9, 3.1, 3.3, depending. So it is. I mean, that's a big difference, and
It is.
It sounds like a small percentage, but the actual increase financially,
it's a lot.
Is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
But also speak on how important it is for a good credit score, because how does that impact?
I mean, credit score is
buyability?
everything.
Yeah.
In especially in this country, but in most cases, credit score is absolutely
It's really important.
important. So if you're out there and you're looking to buy a property, whether it's investment, whether it's residential, your credit score needs to be on point. So I would say, if you don't have a great credit score, it's not the be all and end all. It's time to rectify that, right?
Yeah.
But if you're looking, next 6 months, the next year, whatever it is, sign up to one of those credit agencies and
Experience.
Yeah.
Is it Equifax?
all of that kind of stuff, and just see where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, because they will tell you what your credit score is, and you can sort of see what has affected your credit score if it's been affected,
And ways to improve it.
ways to
Absolutely.
They
improve
give you
it.
ways to improve it.
You know, and most things that affect your credit score is bad management of money. So credit card debt that's not being serviced properly.
Yeah.
I mean, most people abuse a credit card when it can be used as a tool.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, because let's speak on that, because a lot of people hear credit cards and they run away from it because they see it as a bad thing.
Most of our parents made us scared about credit cards. I mean, for
They're
most
like,
of my life,
do
I didn't
not
want one.
Yeah, yeah. But it can actually be used in a good way. So can you speak on some of the...
Yeah, and I also think that just, again, we're just not educated enough. So from school age, I think we should be educated better on financial literacy. Because that's why, and a lot of the time we go back, everyone's talking about their credit score, but it's actually not them messing up so much in their adult life, but it's things that they've done when they were maybe in their uni life, not paying phone bills.
Yeah.
It's a lack of education, to be honest.
It's absolutely a lack of education.
Yeah.
And I have this saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
So if you do, try and share it.
Yeah.
And for example, with credit cards, like I said, are an amazing tool, but people don't necessarily understand how they work.
Yeah.
And each credit card company, supplier, have different rules.
That's true.
So let me try and start at the beginning. Credit cards I personally use credit cards for my day-to-day spending.
Yeah.
And I use that for everything. Any purchase is done on a credit card.
Okay.
One, because you get the protection.
Yeah.
Two, you get points depending on the kind of credit cards you get, which is beneficial.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it then prevents me from using my physical cash, which is in a debit card, daily. Do you know what I mean? And most credit cards will give you a certain amount of time to pay that credit card off. Again, depending on the credit card company, that fluctuates.
Yeah.
Some credit card companies want you to pay, or are okay with you paying a percentage of that monthly.
Yeah.
Others want you to pay off, ideally, in full every month.
Yeah. Is that called a charge card?
Charge, I'm not too sure what charge cards are. I know it's for people with, I think, with lower credit scores, and I don't know.
Why did I think it was called a charge card when you have to pay the whole thing back at the end of the month? Maybe that's
I'm
just
not
me.
too sure.
Yeah, but the credit card you're talking about, for example, like an Amex, you have to pay it back.
Like
at
an
the end of the
Amex,
month.
you pay it back at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't, you just pay higher interest on the money you owe, all right? But with the credit cards, like I said, it provides you protection. So if you paid for something and it didn't turn up or whatever the situation is, the credit card will just reimburse you. With debit cards, you have to go through a whole process. And this, that, and the other. But also, the main factor of credit card is it boosts your credit.
Yeah.
Right? Exponentially. Okay. It's one of the fastest things to boost in your credit score if you handle it properly.
Yeah.
And people feel like, okay, you got a £10,000 limit over 2 cards, so 5 on each card, and people are spending 9,000-10,000 on their credit cards. The key is to keep your utilization at around about 30%.
Yeah.
So you can have as many cards as you want; it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Overall, whatever the max figure is, keep your utilization around about 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how you get the best out of your credit cards.
Okay, so that's definitely one thing. So use your credit cards wisely, guys. Don't think that it's free money, because it's not. You have to pay it back.
Exactly.
Definitely not.
I mean, at uni, at one point, no, just after uni, I definitely felt like my credit card was free money. Best believe I've never used my credit card the same again ever since then. So, it's a good point. In regards to the buying process, let's strip it back and talk about it from the very beginning. Let's say we have someone who's come out of uni, they've been working for a couple of years now, they're living at home. What do they need to look for? I mean, because I'm asking both of you because I know you work in property too. So what do they need to look for? Like, or how do they start the journey? No, both of you, just in general combo.
I mean, from my experience, it would be it would be based on your salary as well. So that plays a part. So if you're a working individual, say you're on 50K, I'm just going to take a round figure.
Yeah.
And you're like, right, I'm ready to look at buy-in. You'd start by looking at your salary, how much you're earning. You'd look at your credit score as well, because that will impact you, as we've just spoken about. And you'd also look to see if you've got what deposit amount you've got.
Yeah.
So you then take that to your mortgage broker and let them know that you're looking for a property, and then they'll tell you what your affordability is.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people don't realise is that you also have to take into consideration if you have any expenditure.
Yeah.
So some people might have cars that they've got on finance, for example, and they might have 10,000 still owed on that. Some people may have outstanding debt on their credit cards of like 5,000, for example. So that instantly puts you at a not complete disadvantage, but it does set you back a little bit. They'll take that into consideration.
Part of the affordability calculation.
Yeah, exactly. So
affordability is definitely a big thing. So most people seem to think it's your salary multiplied by a number four or 4.5 or 5.
Yeah, it
right?
varies between 4 and 5.
Now,
but that varies based on each individual circumstances. So like you said, debt is one thing. How many kids, dependents
yes,
you have?
That's another thing. Yeah.
So I'm trying to say, so there's a lot of factors that they take in. So again, 2 different people who have a very similar income could have different affordabilities. So definitely look into that before you start the process. And again, like you mentioned, speaking to a broker is a very handy tool
100%.
because they're very knowledgeable on this. They can steer you in the right direction. And I prefer brokers over going to a bank, because a bank will give you their perspective on the situation, how their criteria is, whereas a broker has a relationship with several banks. So they can
find you the best deal.
as opposed to, and each bank as well will do a credit check for that bank. You then go to another bank, they do a credit check, whereas the broker will do one and give you a list. Once the affordability side of things is ironed out, then it's getting your mortgage in principle, which is key.
I was going to say, can we talk about what a mortgage in principle actually is as well?
It's basically...
I'm basically stripping it all the way back.
No, fine. It's fine. This is what they're going to want to know.
So it's basically a bank saying that in principle, we will give you a mortgage. It's not subject as in-depth as going for a full mortgage offer, but it's basically saying, based on the information we've been provided, this is what we're saying your affordability is, and this is what the interest rate is going to be. But in principle, we will give you a mortgage. You then have that to
Take
then
to your-
go to your estate agents
Yep.
And start looking. Yeah.
And most good estate agents going to want you to have a mortgage in principle
Absolutely.
before they start. They're commission based. They're trying to make money. So
Yeah.
if you don't have a mortgage in principle, she does.
Yeah.
Guess who I'm taking to see
Of course,
properties?
I would as well. I would as well, yeah.
You know what I
Also,
mean?
just something to bear in mind, because I feel like a lot of people feel they can kind of like evaluate themselves, and they will turn around and say, oh, okay, I think I can afford X amount. And it's like, no, you really should speak to a broker. Definitely get your mortgage in principle, because a lot of people are sat at home wasting time thinking they can't afford, when actually you speak to a broker, they might tell you can.
Yeah.
And then when you get your mortgage in principle, it really does put things into perspective of what your affordability could probably be and what you can actually get.
Sometimes they can actually drop your, like, when you get your mortgage in principle, even when you go and you've done your house search, for example, and you want to put down an offer, they can actually drop what they're giving you.
Yeah.
Yeah, as in, like, I genuinely know people it's happened to as well. So make sure you got some money in the bank, even when you have your mortgage in principle, just in case.
But also, because you have your mortgage in principle, don't then start doing dumb stuff. Like
Absolutely.
spending, buying, this, that, and the other, booking holidays. You got a period where you've been given a mortgage in principle.
You speak on it.
Chill out.
Yeah. Because
Doing that.
And even when you're building up to get your mortgage in principle, make sure your bank statements are actually
I was going to just
point.
touch on that, because a lot of because they will ask for 3 months, usually about 3 to 6 months of your bank statements. And if on your bank statements they just see delivery, that is not going to, you know what I mean? It's not going to look good. So make sure you're trying to keep quite a clear bank statement and
be ready, because when you're in those appointments, they will ask you absolutely everything.
Oh, they will strip you
literally
naked.
everything. So be ready to justify your bank statement. Do you give to charity? Are you paying your Experian? Are you missing any of your bills? Why do you have more than 2 phone bills? How come you're paying internet? They will ask you every single question.
Yeah.
So be prepared to
it needs to be
And
clean.
if your spending is erratic as well, they're gonna want to know why. Because for them, it's okay. So you've got a history of erratic spending. What then makes you think we're gonna believe
that you can pay?
You can then relax on your spending because
all of a sudden.
All of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like you said, prior to that, make sure your spending is in check. Make sure your statements look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're applying to get a huge loan. So
exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Okay, and I was going to say as well, so like after we've got the mortgage in principle, we've now gone to the estate agents, we're now house searching. So I don't know if this happens to anybody else yet, but sometimes you go in, you're like, this house is so cute. You go in now, you turn around, you make your offer. Before you've even submitted your offer, house is gone.
Yeah. That's
talk
another
about
thing
that,
that happens.
please?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's big because
I feel like you have a property business.
Yeah. So I have to have a construction company and I also have a property investment company.
Okay, so talk to me about that. Do you have any properties just snatched from you? How does it work?
I mean, for me, my property investment company is only just over a year old.
Okay.
So we have a SA, which is based in Manchester.
Can you let people know what SA, please?
It's a service accommodation.
Thank you.
Like an Airbnb business, but it's not. So we cater to contractors, insurance companies when they temporarily house families and this, that, and the other. So we typically, rather than going for a few days rentals or longer periods, it's 3 months, 6 months, which is a lot more beneficial for me. And one of the main things I wanted to have when setting up an SA, a service accommodation, is as minimal input from me as
absolutely
possible. I live in London. I'm running a construction company. I don't need to be having phone calls from people in my, do you know what I mean? So for me to have to negate that, I hired a property manager.
Yeah.
The first set of property managers I hired were these women who were starting out in the industry, and I was more than happy to go to them. They were very enthusiastic. They were, all the things that they could do for me, and they were new. So I thought, let me give them a chance. And for the 6 months that they had I would say 4 months that they had my property, I literally broke even.
Oh no!
Literally, they weren't doing anything to increase my rental. Yeah, it was literally post it on Airbnb.
That was it.
And wait for somebody to book it.
Yeah,
so
but it needs to be more.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
so I had a frank conversation with them and told them it wasn't working out, I was referred to another property manager who has been absolutely
Amazing.
amazing.
Shout out them. Shout out the property manager.
Prince
Nah.
is very frank. So if he thought he was subpar or mediocre, he'd be like, yeah, he's okay.
No.
So this
He-
must
he's
he
been
must be amazing.
From jump. I think the first booking he got me was for 9 months,
Wow. Okay.
and profit on that was about £1,500 a month.
Love that.
Wow.
So from breaking even
Yeah.
to profiting,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
9 month booking off the first one you've done. You know what I'm trying to say?
I'm giving you
That
everything.
fame.
Giving you everything. Do you want more properties? I'll give you more properties.
And I mean, our relationship is fantastic, but it's literally as passive as it comes. He sends me a statement at the end of the month, transfers me my money, takes his
Cut.
cut. He pays the cleaners, sorts out the bins, the collections, all that kind of stuff.
So he does his thing.
That is it. I have done direct debit set up for the utilities, so it's literally zero.
Involvement, yeah.
So after having that for a little while, we decided to buy a renovation, a project to renovate. So we bought a huge period property, again in Manchester, in a desirable area, sort of 25,000 square foot. And
Wow,
but this,
big.
yeah, I mean it's a huge space, but it's a beautiful period
Yeah,
building, high ceilings. I mean,
Amazing.
over 4 floors, including the basement.
Oh.
And that was an auction property.
Okay.
Now with auctions, and we're talking about investment properties now, with auctions, people always have their concerns. Those concerns are very real.
Valid, okay.
They're very, very valid. When you're going into trying to invest, but through an auction,
Yeah.
do your bloody due diligence. And I did my due diligence. But with
Yeah.
auctions, you get a limited amount of time to actually view the property.
Okay.
I thought to myself, I'm in construction. I have my own construction business.
You'll
I've
be
got
fine.
this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I did, to be honest.
He's like, I got
But-
this, obviously.
But there were still things I did miss. Again, just because you have a limited amount of time, you're trying to get into every single room, you're trying to look at this and look at that,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. You're not going to be able to cover everything. So again, for people who aren't necessarily as savvy, always go with a contractor that you trust, somebody who knows this stuff.
Yeah.
So I offered on this property, and they turned me down.
Okay.
It didn't sell on the first auction for whatever reason. Went on to auction a second time, and I purchased it for looking back on it, probably a little bit higher than I wanted to. I would have liked to have paid,
Yeah.
especially knowing what I do now.
Yeah.
But
How
yeah,
did you come to that conclusion, though? How did you?
So once the offer had gone through, you start your conveyancing process and everything else. You go through that whole process, and again, I know we're jumping back and forth, but having a good team
Yeah.
to help you with the process
Yeah.
Makes a
is
difference.
absolutely vital.
Yeah.
So with auction properties, you have a certain amount of time to complete, and I think it was like 30 days.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like
didn't know
30
that,
days. So you
yeah.
need to get everything done.
ASAP,
Quickly.
really. Yeah.
Wow. So do you need to be a cash buyer to do an auction?
Yes, technically you do. So yes, you do is the simple answer. But like I said, that process starts fast. Money is flying out
Yeah.
fast, you know? And like I said, having a team, so having the right broker, funding companies, solicitors, this is all integral, because you miss that deadline and you're
That's it.
getting penalized.
Yeah.
Once that auction hammer goes down, you're
time's
liable.
not starting.
You're liable
time's
to buy that.
ticking.
You have to buy that property. There's no backing out. So yeah, the team that I had was absolutely amazing. I think we closed a day late, but again,
It's a short time.
it was still fantastic. If I'm honest
Yeah.
with you. So we this was just before Christmas. We closed.
Can you imagine at Christmas time? What a lovely Christmas
you are.
time.
Yeah, I think it was the 15th of December, Bella's birthday.
Wow. Oh.
So we didn't want to start any of the works before Christmas, so we hit the ground running in January.
Yeah.
We went in, and I had my guys from London go up there, just because, again,
You know them.
And
Trust them.
trust them.
Yeah, it's going to get done.
It's in Manchester. I can't be there every single day. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So I took my whole team out there, and again, I had to house them, and so longer story. But we hit the ground running, started the works, and the works were a lot bigger than expected. So things that I missed, for example, was the walls, the external walls. Once we started even doing anything to the fabric of the property, it literally just started crumbling.
Oh my God.
So we literally had to strip back, I don't know, 85% of the
that's
walls
a lot
back to
as
brick.
well.
Wow.
Back to brick. That's time. That's money,
effort,
everything.
Materials you didn't think you were going to need.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
So it's additional spending and everything else. So I estimate it's going to be a 12-week project. It's panning out to be more of a 15-week project.
Okay,
but
not too bad.
So not too bad.
It's common in construction. It can usually always go over. So
I feel like this is common with all projects. It's going to be completed by June 20th. Yeah.
But like I said, it's unforeseen. But getting back on track and just getting things done, is absolutely vital. So I think we're about 3 weeks out from completing the project. But also, in fact, things that you have to take into consideration as well as building control. Certain things we were doing was structural. We were, sort of stripping out walls, chimneys, from ground to the roof. So we had to have building control come in to sign things off. Right. And building control is one of those people where they can be fine, but they can also derail things completely. So they came in to assess the structural element.
Okay.
Right. It's what I paid you for. Assess the structural element. They've come in on a day that I'm not there, assessed that, and then took a wander around the property and started coming to me and to tell me, oh, well, you've done this, so you have to do this, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now, my building control rep came in and I couldn't be there. So I said, call me afterwards so we can discuss it. If I need to do anything, the time is of the essence, right?
Yeah.
He went on paternity the very next day. So I didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. So I contacted Manchester Council. I said, listen, I haven't heard from this guy. I need to continue my project. So they assigned somebody else who came in, assessed it, and said, I'm happy with everything. These are the small bits I need you to do. Cracked on. 2 weeks later, this guy came back and was like, oh, by the way, you need to do this. I'm sorry. This was not...
Yeah, so it's done now.
It's done.
Yeah. Your ship has sailed, honey.
Your ship has sailed.
Move on, yeah. Move on.
But he doesn't care.
What do you mean?
Right? I've boarded my walls.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready for plastering.
Yeah.
He's telling me, well, no, actually, I'd want you to insulate the walls. The walls are boarded. You had your chance to tell me.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, congratulations on your baby and that. But...
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. That's what really frustrates me. When you are going on annual leave or anything like that, there should always be somebody that picks up your work.
Yeah.
And the notes should be on file. If you knew that I needed to insulate the walls, that information should have been passed.
Thank you.
To someone, or you could have just told me that because you knew that before you went on paternity leave.
Yeah.
So
it would have been a very easy fix. The walls are back to brick. We have to board them anyway.
Yeah.
Just use insulation boards.
Yeah,
easy.
Absolutely.
But now I'm having to double board. So I've already boarded. I'm now having to double board. Again, more time,
more money.
More money.
Yeah.
So these are just various things that you have to consider when you're investing in a property. There's always going to be unforeseen. There's always going to be a little bit of extra money being spent.
Yeah.
Your program is always going to potentially be extended.
Yeah.
But these are things you need to factor in from the start.
Yeah.
Which
it's interesting because I feel like that's just life though. There's always unforeseen things in life. So like when you're investing, even if it's not property and it's just something else, there's going to be unforeseen risks. So it's one of those ones you've got to weigh up for yourself and see if you're a risk taker and you're willing to do that.
Well, I think it's also
you're really
important to have like contingency money.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be an unexpected cost. And specifically to property, it is so common.
Common. That's what I'm saying. Like
it's almost inevitable that there are going to be unforeseen things. When you go into a property, and if we loop it back to a buying process, sometimes you look at a property and you think, oh, this property looks aesthetically pleasing. But the fact of the matter is there might be an issue with the roofing. There might be an issue with the guttering. There might be an issue with the plumbing. But you won't know that until you're in the property and you're using it.
And you're using stuff,
And I think sometimes with the difference between, say, renting and buying is when you're renting a property and you go into the property and it looks beautiful and it's dressed up and it's furnished, that's fine. That might push you to want to rent that property. But when you're buying, you want to be checking the loos. You want to be flushing it to hear how it flushes. Checking the water pressure. Checking, there's so much more that you need to be looking into and testing and checking. Yeah. How old is the boiler? Is it 7 years old? Well, guess what? You might need to replace that before you buy it.
Okay.
Or
why is it important to check to ask these questions about the boiler, for example? Like, why is it actually important?
Because that once you buy that property, it becomes your liability.
Your issue.
Exactly. Whereas when you're renting,
And
it's
boilers
not.
are expensive.
They
Oh
are.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, boilers are
Costly.
expensive.
Spending
When you're
£1,500.
Yeah.
going on your journey,
Boilers.
be asking the correct question.
To purchase a boiler, you can get a good
To
boiler,
purchase
like a
and
wash.
install.
To install might be another 1,500 quid. So you might be looking at about £3,000, £4,000.
No.
for a
No.
boiler, yeah.
No.
Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. though.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be.
Historically, I've definitely replaced boilers for a lot more than
It
that.
depends if there's a wider issue. If it's literally just replacing a like for like boiler, then it's not that expensive. But if there are bigger issues, then of course, yes. So with this property, for example, we replaced the boiler, we replaced the water cylinder,
Okay.
all of the plumbing throughout the household.
Yeah,
So that's a bigger
Project.
Yeah.
job. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Okay. I think also something to note or bear in mind is that I tend to deal with property in central London. So I don't, and there can be a difference in price, contractor payments, if you are looking at outside of London versus like central London, for example. Prices can vary.
you mean
Definitely.
from a contractor perspective?
Contractor's perspective, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Up north, for example, contractor costs may be slightly cheaper than hiring a contractor in London because of overheads and everything else.
Yeah.
But again, if your projects are in central London, then there is a bit more of a premium, just because that contractor has to then factor in congestion
Travel.
charge, parking,
Yeah.
and a whole myriad of other things that is part of being in central London. So
Yeah.
typically your costs are going to be more because they need to cover these costs.
Yeah.
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 You know,
No, it makes sense.
Okay, so schools, like bringing it all back to the
Purchasing,
purchasing in the first time buyer type process. So we've got mortgage in principle. You've got making sure you go with the right people to kind of view the property. What's
Yeah.
next?
so from that point, once you've decided on a property that you want to make an offer on, if it's a residential
Yeah.
property you're going to live in, most people are quite emotionally led. So the purchase price may be, if I'm going to say 300,000,
Yeah, let's say 300,000.
let's say 300,000,
Yeah.
right? And you're in competition with some other people. You really want this house. You're emotionally invested.
Yeah.
You've seen yourself
Yeah.
Yeah.
living
Cooking
in
in
that
that
house,
kitchen.
cooking in that kitchen,
Yeah.
having the parties in the
Trust me,
in the
barbecue
garden.
in the garden in summer. Yeah.
It's all emotional. So
Yeah.
all logic goes
Yeah.
out the window. Somebody else has beat our offer. They've put in at 305k. I mean, we can. It's only going to be this much more money. Let's put in,
I just wanna-
207.
Yeah, and bear in mind that's taken away from your lawyer fees, by the way.
Oh,
We haven't even
stamp
touched on
duty.
that. Yes, thank you.
But
Yeah.
everybody starts to make these justifications for why they're going to spend more money on this property. Oh, we're going to be here for 7 years or 10 years or blah, 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 blah. We can afford
7
it.
years, you know.
Yeah.
So logically, you're now thinking, well, I wanted to go and spend this max.
Yeah.
You're now at 300. You're now
Yeah.
at 310, 315 because you're now in your head, you're emotionally invested in that
Yeah,
property.
you can still just squeeze.
Do you know what I'm trying to
still
say?
just
And
squeeze.
that's what people generally do. So I would say when you're in that situation, try to think about how much you can realistically afford.
Yeah.
Maybe even if you think to yourself, if I find the absolute best property,
Yeah.
this is my max. And maybe have somebody with you who's going to keep you,
In check.
in check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're more emotional, find a logical friend.
Basically.
Yeah.
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 Because it's happened. I've done it. I'm sure you guys may have done it. It happened.
Absolutely.
But it's from it happening you realize, shit, maybe
I should slow
Next
down.
time,
Next time, yeah. I told you, them lawyer fees. Next time I'm like, wait a minute.
No, it's true. But also another thing to touch on is I would say definitely lead with 3 non-negotiables when you're trying to find your property.
Okay.
Because, for example, one of mine was it has to be close to transport links.
Absolutely.
Good transport links.
Yeah, facts.
And I want it to be within the M25 and I want it to be close to family.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't buying close to where my mum was.
Yeah.
I want it to be close to where my cousins were.
Yeah.
So
I
at
love that you
least
guys have done that as well. Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
there's
so
like
cute.
100 of us. But it's quite good to, for me, those were the things that were the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
But I think for other people, just double check what it is that you think is very important to you. Maybe for you, it's important to have at least 2 bedrooms or an ensuite. I don't know. But just make sure you have your checklist of things that you want your property to have. I wouldn't go for more than 3 just because I think anything beyond that you're being unrealistic. And if you've got a small budget to play with, then you make it harder for yourself to find something.
Most definitely.
And it's your first property, so don't get too attached.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I'm trying to think, did I get attached to my property? But I don't think I did.
And I did-ish get attached. So we saw the property we ended up buying. That was like one of the first properties we saw, but it wasn't in the location we wanted.
Okay.
So we then looked
that
in
was
the
far.
locations.
I remember that being really far.
But then we started looking in the locations we wanted, and each property we saw just did not compare.
Oh, wow.
At all. I mean, there were great transportations, they were in great locations, but it just did not compare.
Okay. So what were your non-negotiables like for you?
I mean, we wanted somewhere that had enough space. Like it was we were looking at, my wife really wanted a new build. I wanted a traditional.
Why?
At a
I
time,
feel like me and my mum go back and forth on this a lot as well.
At a time, I just didn't really want a new. I mean, new builds come with their own issues, right?
Absolutely, I completely agree.
It's a brand new property, yes, but
Service
depends
charge.
on who builds it. Depends on the build quality.
Yep.
You know, people tend to have more issues with new builds.
Yep.
You got that whole service charge situation.
Yep.
Ground rent. There's
so many
things. So
things,
for me, I wanted a traditional. She wanted a new build. We ended up looking at new builds.
Obviously.
Happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I agree. But as we were looking at places, we just was not satisfied.
Okay.
And it must have been 2 months, 3 months later. Maybe not that much. Maybe like 2 months. And in my mind, that property had gone. You know what I mean? Gone. But Mrs. said, you know what? Why don't you call them and just find out if it's still available?
Yeah.
And I said, fine. So the next day I called them and they said, yeah, still available. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was on at 350. And I put in an offer, I think 325. And it got accepted.
Okay.
We were ecstatic.
I can imagine.
Over the moon. We're thinking, what? That property we really wanted, we got it. 25 grand under asking.
What?
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we started conveyancing process, and our broker was involved, and it got surveyed by the bank, and the bank basically said to our broker, we don't think it's worth that.
So they think it was worth less?
They think it was worth less. It was worth less.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what? That was the best thing, because most times the bank's just like, you know, great, whatever, let's give it a mortgage. It's roughly about that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was probably the relationship my broker had with, I don't know.
His bank, but
yeah. So broker called me up. I said, interesting. I called up the developers and I said, I want to drop my offer. And they said, well, it's too late, blah, 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 blah. This, I said, cool. We're a few months into the process.
Yeah.
I can pull out and go and find another property.
Yeah.
So he said, what do you want to know? I said, 300,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was like, nah, you need to justify it. I said,
it's justified. The bank told me.
Basically.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I said, this is what we're trying to offer.
Yeah.
You think about it. Let me know. Came back. I said, fine.
Okay.
So
50k just saved just like that.
Just like that. Just because.
That's secret blessings.
Can we just track it back a little bit? So just to confirm, did you buy your property off plan as opposed to?
It wasn't technically still off plan because it was in the process of being built. So it was probably a few months out.
Fine. Okay.
Of being fully
completed.
Yeah, completed.
Okay, fine.
But yeah.
That is amazing.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Which you can do. I mean, you can always renegotiate your offer up until exchange.
I think that's a really good point, because I didn't even know that you could actually do that
either.
So guys, you negotiate. If your bank tells you it's not worth it, see if you can drop the price small. And if you can go in under, because like you said, you go in with an emotional attachment and you're like, oh, people said it's 300. Let me just put in an offer that's higher. Maybe give yourself some wiggle room. Yeah, like give yourself some wiggle room. Yeah.
And it worked out in the end, because when we came to sell it, remember we had saved 50 grand.
Of course,
so when we're selling it, all of that was factored into that.
Yeah.
So other people who bought at higher offers, I mean, and then you were at my place. We had the biggest apartment
Terrace.
in that building.
Terrace apartment. It looks
Other people
amazing.
spent a hell of a lot more money on smaller apartments.
Wow.
You know, so.
But is that because you kind of have knowledge in the property industry that you've been able to tap into?
I mean, at that time I was very green. I wouldn't say I even had that kind of. I mean, I had been an estate agent in the past, so that
maybe
helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But so for those who are, because, you know, generally speaking, when you go in to buy a property and probably even renting as well, estate agents are typically known to do the whole, you know, it's really hot on the market. So many people looking at this property. I can't guarantee it's going to be here tomorrow. You know, you've got to put in your offer. They're really driving that sell. What would you say to those people who feel that the property is probably, you know, they want to offer a little bit under the asking? Would you tell them to still go for it? Would you tell them to?
I think it depends. I mean, for example, 2022, you had property prices being going for way over asking price.
Yeah.
You kind of have to judge the situation based on where we are, right?
Yeah.
Other times, property prices are being sold at 10% less than asking price. So you kind of have to use your best judgment based on that. Sometimes when an estate agent is telling you it's a hot property, it's a hot property. I've been an estate agent when I've called clients and I've said to them, listen, this property fits everything you're looking for. If you don't get down here
now,
lunchtime,
today.
and they're saying, well, I can get down at the end of the day, and I'm saying it's not going to be, it's not going to be, and I'm genuinely serious. Do you know what I mean? So situations like that, but sometimes the estate agents do blag to get a sale, but sometimes
it's life,
it will be.
It's life,
So, I mean, always try and get it for the best value you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll work in your favor. Sometimes it won't, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, me offering less, he could have said, cool.
No.
No.
Yeah.
We can get a sale.
But the thing is, if you don't ask, you don't know. So what do you actually really have to lose? That's the thing. It's always worth asking, regardless, because you could have still kept your 325k offer and still been fine.
Yeah.
So either which way, you had nothing to lose and you came out the winner.
Yeah, I did. I mean, fortunately. I mean, for other people, they may lose the property and it's disheartening. You will always find another property.
Always find another. There's so many.
When you put in an offer on a property and you're fighting with another buyer, and you lose, because I mean, for the property we live in at the moment, before this property, there was another property we offered on, and emotions were way above. We went up, I don't know, 25 grand. Then over the price that we originally wanted, and that's because the landlord was like, "No, we want this," and blah blah blah. And I kept pushing about her. My mate kept looking at me like
side eye.
And I was like,
if I lose this property,
I was saying if I lose this property,
and she was like,
she was like, I don't.
It's time to let this go.
Yeah. And then in the end, I just thought, you know what? Nah,
it's too much.
No, I'm just not gonna do it. And you know what they say? Like sometimes God doesn't allow you to get something that you really think you want.
Yeah.
All right? Because literally, I think I said no to the estate agent going up on a Wednesday or whatever it was. Thursday night, I find this other property online. And I call up Friday morning. And they're like, it's still available, but we're doing viewing Saturday. And we're fully booked up.
I'm squeezing in that Saturday viewing.
I'm telling you.
Just tell me a time and I'll be there. They were like, we can do you the first one, but you have to be here something like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know what's so funny? This has happened to me before. And it's so funny because I turned up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I was the person that bought the property. So sometimes, again, squeeze.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I remember I went out the night before. I was in my bed. It was like 6 a.m. I was like, do I actually have to get up? Honestly.
It was Saturday morning.
I would have missed out on that property just like that.
I was coming down from Hounslow. I was like, what time do I have to leave to get down?
Well.
Do you know what I mean? But I showed it to my missus. She was like, it looks great. Let's go see it. So we went to go see it.
Yeah.
Fell in love.
Love that for you guys.
Fell in love with the place.
Yeah.
I tried to do this whole playing it cool. My was like, offer on this property.
No.
I said, nah.
Relax.
Let's play it cool. She was like, nah.
This is what
I want this house.
Yeah.
She looked me dead in the eye. I want this.
Didn't you?
I wanted to. I played it. I offered her like 3 in the afternoon.
Well, you wanted to do it the next day, but because
I wanted to do it on Monday.
3 in the afternoon.
I pushed it.
This is again, happy wife,
Happy life. I'm telling you.
And we went back and forth a little bit with the landlord, but they accepted our offer. But that process was absolutely the worst experience of trying to buy a property. Because,
wow.
Again, it goes to having the right team, right?
Yeah.
Because the lawyers on both ends were just atrocious. We came to losing this property so many times.
Oh, wow, okay.
So many times. And like I said, my wife kept looking me dead in the eye saying,
we better not.
If we lose it.
I want this property. Get me this property.
Yeah. That's your job. Sorry, babe. That's your job. She said, listen, like,
under no circumstances.
this is what I want.
Under no circumstances.
Yeah, can you
we are not
lose
getting
this?
the property. I'm at work.
Stressing.
Making cool. Honestly, I don't know what I was paying solicitors and agents for because I was doing everything. I was calling. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Sometimes it happens that way.
I spent
you know?
weeks doing everything to get out of the line.
So bad though.
It was just short. That just
I
happened.
do find that
sometimes.
some of them are just like that.
Yeah,
Some of them aren't.
Sometimes.
They just aren't great.
So having it like now, I have a team who I use. So it's a different.
But let's
situation.
talk about people that don't have a team. Because, for example, I wouldn't have a team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. Like, I mean, I could obviously get Naomi to be like, "Can you just call Prince to ask him?" Like, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But what about people that don't have a team?
referrals. Referrals.
Yeah.
If you know somebody who's had great experiences,
Yeah.
Yeah.
speak to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've referred a member of my team to other people, and they've had. I mean, just a friend of ours has just completed on a property ahead of schedule because they use our solicitors.
Love that for you guys.
Do you know what I mean? So ask people
That
that you
makes a
know has had
difference.
good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you mitigate against
Yeah.
it. Don't use people who your estate agent recommend.
Yeah.
Always every time I've had a bad experience, I've used somebody that the estate agents have recommended.
Yeah.
Let's talk about cost-wise. So let's say the average. I don't know what's the average salary in the UK.
I think it's about 27 grand.
No,
I think it's a bit higher.
no,
than that,
isn't it 30 something to 40?
I thought it was. Yeah, I think in
He's
the
looking at me like
UK,
you're not.
I think in the UK, as a general average, I think it's around 27. But I think in London, it's
Oh,
about
okay.
30.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about.
Something.
Let's do
Around
London.
the
Let's
30s,
say 40k.
Nah,
that's
I really
not
don't think
that
it is.
high.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's say 35k. Yeah. So 35k. What can I get? Let's talk about that. I earn 35k a year. I don't know what the take home of that is, but what can I afford? I want to get a 2-bed. I want good transport links. I want good transport links.
Oh.
All my non-negotiables that we've just been discussing. How do I navigate that? Because I need to have a certain amount for my deposit,
Yeah.
my lawyer fees, potentially. So we talk about sinking funds for furnishing your properties. Is the property going to be furnished? Are they leaving those goods? Are they not? So like, how much money do I need to have right now? If we was to give advice to people that are like younger than us, early 20s, you want to get your first place
In London.
Yeah, I was gonna say because
say both.
So
If you're-
35k,
it's not gonna get
it's
you
not going to get you
in London.
much.
Okay, so how much is 35k going to get us? A one
you're,
bed?
You're on the what, 200 grand? Once you multiply that?
You're making me do maths now. This is
Yeah, you're on the 200 grand. I mean,
You're on
don't
the
get me
200
wrong.
grand,
I'm sure there's places you can get
and
like a
are,
1 bedroom for under
Yeah.
200 grand. But
and
in
are they
London.
even given
It's a
4.5
struggle.
times now?
I think it's about 4.5 at the moment.
Still,
I believe so.
Yeah, I
Really?
think
Okay.
the
A
A
economy
mortgage
is
is
starting
getting a
to
mortgage
stay-
is difficult at the moment.
yeah.
yeah. But I think what it is that you have to bear in mind is that like if you are on 35k, don't be disheartened because there are schemes that you can use. I don't
Yeah.
know all of them,
Yeah.
but there are things like shared ownership,
Yeah.
or I know they've got rid of Help to Buy recently, but
Yeah,
they've
they
replaced
have.
it with something else, which I'm not too sure.
I don't know what
it
the
is.
replacement is. Yeah.
So, but there are schemes that are out there to help people buy properties in London. So don't be disheartened if you do still want
Yeah.
to buy within London and you're on 35k. But you could still look at buying outside of London. There's nothing wrong with that option
and
as
commuting
well.
in. So like, yeah, I know people that have like bought in Reading,
Yeah.
much like
Yeah.
nicer, bigger places. I would definitely, I wouldn't
you
mind
probably get
buying further
more
out
for your
and-
money. Yeah,
and
I mean,
travel in.
there's also a thing that's, it's not a government scheme, but it's something that some investors do. It's called rent to buy.
Okay.
You guys probably might not have heard about it, but for example, say I'm an investor and I buy a property and I say I want to help new people
Yeah.
get on the property ladder.
Yeah.
I might say, okay, you may not be able to afford this property right now,
Yeah.
but you rent it from me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we sign a contract that you're going to buy it in 5-6 years.
Yeah.
yeah,
So you pay rent plus an additional 10% or whatever, or 15%.
Yeah.
yeah.
That additional 10 or 15% goes into a fund that saves over time, and that forms your deposit in 5-6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 5-6 years time, as long as you've kept up with your rent,
Payments.
that is your property. Think of it as you own this property.
That's
really
interesting.
cool.
I
You're
didn't know that.
you're down to it's yours essentially. So
Yeah.
any repairs, this, that, and the other is down to you. But
Yeah.
you can also decorate it. You can do an extension if you want to,
Yeah.
because it's your property. Like I
Yeah.
said, as long as you keep up with the payment plan, and then in 5-6 years you're in a better circumstance. You've got that deposit saved, you then get a mortgage and officially take over the property.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's a really, really good
It's a very good scheme, and I actually haven't heard of it, so it's very interesting. My only thing is, are people able to, like, in this economy right now, able to afford their rent and then an additional 10-20% on top of that? That's my only thing.
But it will be, I mean, it's always subject to people's affordability and what they can do.
It always is,
because ultimately you would like to think, and I know not everyone can do this, but you'd like to think some people are able to save monthly or are saving monthly, because it is quite crucial. And I think if you're going to be saving monthly,
that at our
then
age, as in, like, you know, we're talking about,
because we're grandmas.
Basically, I'm like, are we saying that because of the age we're kind of at? Because again, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, when I was younger, because when I got my first property, my mum was very much involved in that process and how I saved my money. I was 23 at the time, and I definitely spent money different then to the way I spend money now. So like, even with the economy, 20%, like adding an additional 10 or 20% on top of me paying my rent, for example. What is people's rent these days?
I mean,
because rent is always more than your mortgage, so that's what we need to consider.
It does. I mean, it does vary massively depending on where you are in London as well. Like a 3-bed in, for example, North London, I say Enfield, it's probably around like £1,800 to £2,000 a month.
Yeah, but
if you're
how much is
looking at
35k after tax a month? Because what the price you just listed, I'm thinking, so if we take that away from what they've earned, how much is left?
But that's a 3-bed. But then if you were to scale it down to a 1-bed, I'm not too sure how much it would go for. Maybe about 1,001.
Okay.
Around that price, or 1,000 a month, or something around that price.
Yeah.
And so if you're earning 35k, I'm assuming, I don't know what the take home is on this, so forgive me if I've calculated it.
I can't even do the maths in my head. I'm sorry, guys.
I know it's 7,000 to be taken off for free 35,000, which leaves you with 28,000. So what's that divided by 12? That would be
27. 35 months. Yeah. No, 28. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's about
I would say they're taking home something like between 21 and 23,000.
Okay.
Sorry, 21 and 2,300 a month.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it might be a bit less than that, actually.
Let's say an average of 2,100. Yeah. 2,100. 1,100 on rent we just spoke about. Okay. An additional 10% on that. What are we at now? Because my brain is not doing the maths today.
Yeah.
So 2,100 is your take home.
Take home.
Yeah, rent is what?
You said 1,000. Yeah, 1,100. So you're left with 1,000. The 10% on that to pay for the rent to buy scheme, right?
£110.
Okay, add that. All their bills, utilities, whatever. How much money are they actually left with? Is it a realistic?
Still a decent amount. Say, okay, you got your rent at 21. You add another £110 to that.
Yeah.
Utilities, let's call it a couple of hundred.
A couple hundreds.
And then the rest is just living costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not bad. And considering as a person trying to get on the property like that, you have to make sacrifices anyway.
Absolutely. You're going to have to save. There's no way around it.
So the benefit is you've got a property from day one.
Yeah.
Right? Albeit technically it's in 5, 6, whatever you agree.
Yeah.
Right? But it's your property from day one. Treat it as it's your own.
Of course.
For the investor, they've got someone committed to purchase their property in X amount of years.
Yeah.
But they're also getting a rental income up until that point.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, because I feel if you're in a position where you can't physically come up with the money to buy a property today, you don't have 20k, stashed away, or you don't have parents who are going to give you that money, well then, if you don't have any other option, this is probably a good alternative to that. You're working towards it. Like one of my friends, I know her long-term goal is to buy. She doesn't care to buy today, but she's happy to look at buying in the next 5 years. So something like that option would be good for her, because she's a single mother living at home, not living at home, single mother currently renting a 2-bed flat, and she's
already renting. So
so why not go for this option? But so I think it is a good option for those who aren't able to come up with cash immediately and are currently renting.
I think it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a new thing. Investors have been doing this.
And I didn't know about this.
But I wouldn't say it's common knowledge. I don't think most people know.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Though, yeah. So
where can people find this scheme?
There are investors who are out there at the moment. If I'm honest, where do you find them? I don't know.
But do you know what the thing is? And this is the point of this, having these open conversations, because we can
Yeah.
obviously now, I mean, the internet, the world is our oyster. We can
Yeah.
obviously go and
You
Google
can
it and
research
talk to
things.
loads of people about it.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have this idea, it's up to do us what we do with the knowledge and the
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Maybe.
But 35k, first property, what am I expecting? Back to the question.
Do you know what? It is a little bit difficult because ultimately, like we were saying earlier, 35k in London can't get you much unless you jump on a scheme.
Okay.
So
Or unless
and-
you're in a partnership, because I feel like as well,
yeah,
when you're,
or if you're in a partnership,
Combined
if you're
Yeah.
bringing in extra money, but then that takes it from being 35k to being what your combined total is.
Yeah, and can I just ask actually, because I'm not too sure, maybe you guys all know, but for, let's say because we're saying it's 4.5% or maybe 4%. When you're with a partner, is it still that percentage? Like, is it still 4 times, or is it 3 times, or is it
It's
doesn't
still the same
change
thing,
really?
yeah.
Okay,
It's they see it as a combined total.
yeah,
But then likewise, if he's got debt on his credit card
That-
and you
yeah.
don't, or
Yeah.
if he's got bad credit in general and you don't,
yeah,
it will impact the overall.
Can I just interject with that whole combined income thing, right? Because I mean, I've been with my missus
Many
a
years.
long time, so that was always going to be the situation. But if you are looking to do that whole combined, you do lose out on the individual first time buyer
yes,
ability,
yeah,
because you're basically going in on it together.
yeah.
To the government,
You're not first
we've
time.
done that.
Yeah,
We've done it. You know what I mean? Where if you are able to buy individually, you can take
Advantage of
advantage of
that. Both of you having your
both
first
of
time.
you having that first time buyer.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Again, it depends on people's circumstances. If you have, I guess, I mean, I was going to say time to play with, but ultimately, if you're buying as an individual, depending on your income, it may mean that you buy a flat versus buying a house if you're buying joint. I mean, it will depend totally on your circumstances, on your financial abilities.
Yeah.
So don't take this as a kind of gospel rule, but
Yeah.
it could mean that you have a smaller property if you're buying as an
Yeah, and to be
individual.
honest, again, depending on your age, it doesn't really matter, because once you're on the property ladder, it's actually easier to kind of maneuver and manipulate from then on.
Well,
So-
yeah, because I mean, listen, guys, if you can do it, I'm not saying that everyone should jump on it. It will depend totally on your financial ability. So please assess yourself before, jumping into the property game, because it can be very taxing. But when you invest in a property, like Prince said earlier on in the conversation, there is so much opportunity there. Like the growth potential in your portfolio or in your property, like what you save in a year, you can save so much more within your property, because the property value goes up very quickly in this country.
It does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
increases.
So, are you gonna?
Prince is like,
No,
he's gonna-
what I'm gonna say is, it's like because you said once you're on the
once you're kind of on the
ladder,
property, yeah,
right? There's
it's a
you
bit
can
easier.
maneuver and this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. Yes.
Do you agree?
100%.
I mean, you're the. I'm just here
can-
throng out the questions
You
and
can,
the
but
answers.
again, it comes down to how much money you have, because you have an investment. Okay, say you
Property.
buy a residential property first.
Yeah.
You want to buy an investment property afterwards.
Yeah,
Stamp duty. You have to factor that in.
100%.
Second property stamp duty
Yeah.
is a Mazza.
Yes,
Right?
Yes,
Buying your investment property first.
I remember. I'm like, yeah.
But you also did the other way. So buying your investment property first, again, that way you have income coming in. So then I guess you can put that income towards second property. But they make it very, very, very costly to own multiple properties. It's not how it used to be.
But also the tax
You
on
know?
it as well. You do
Yeah.
have to pay tax on that money you're making on your investment property.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. So there is that as well. And with section, I think it's section 24.
I
You
can imagine
can't-
he's even dropping the sections for us.
No, but-
In property, you need to
So-
know about the
so-
section.
Said section 24.
yeah, so
all
before
right.
before that came into play, right? If you owned investment property in your own name,
Yeah,
you had all these tax deductible allowances,
yeah,
right? Interest rates, X, blah, blah, blah. With section 24, if you own property in your own name, they've limited all the things that you can write off. So then people are now putting investment properties in a company name.
yeah, yeah.
Beneficial, but if you already have 5-6 properties in your personal name, transferring all of those into
A business.
limited company,
Who was I talking about? Was it you that
expensive.
we were just talking
Yeah,
about this literally
yeah.
a couple of days ago? Right? I was
Yeah.
asking you. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you got to weigh that up. You got to financially shoulder that burden, but then you have that. If you're starting your investment journey, you're starting it into a limited company, then great. You have those, allowances,
Yeah.
which is good. But then because you're invested in a company. Depending on the kind of property you're investing in, you might have to go for a commercial mortgage and this, that, and the other. You know, and then you're paying, like you said, you're paying taxes on your income.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. And what really sort of annoys me a bit is...
What was he... Did you see that?
Had to adjust himself because it really annoyed him.
No, it does. Is all these property gurus and Instagram people and blah, 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 blah. They give you a lot of the basic superficial information. They don't go into depth for people to really understand
what goes into it.
How much things genuinely cost.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People will say, oh, well, if you invest this amount into a property, you get this amount out. Okay, great. Break that down so someone can really understand it and see how much they are actually making. Once you factor in all the outgoings and all the things that you have to pay for. You know? So what I will say to people is when you're looking to get into the investment side of things, really, really do your due diligence. Do your homework. Understand it. Don't just go into it. And I mean, I recently had a conversation with a potential client who was referred to me. He just bought a property knowing that works needed to be done. Didn't understand the gravity of the amount of work that needed to be done. Do you know what I mean? So he's bought a property, can't necessarily afford the work that needs to be done. He thought because he spoke to a landscaper about the works that needs to be done. So like, you can do this, you can do this. No, you can't. You know what I mean? It's not that. So I gave him the real. It's going to cost you this amount to renovate it. And this is just without you even seeing it. You talking to me about it. How much it's going to cost you. Yeah, but can we patch it up?
No. The thing is, it depends.
I'm not going to do that.
That's
we don't. My company don't. We don't do patch. We don't do things that way. You can find someone who's going to do it. I'm not going to do the works that way.
Yeah, and the thing is, normally when you patch things up, you're paying for it later. It's not worth it with property. Yeah, it's just not worth it. Just do it the first time. You know, let it look nice and enjoy it. Yeah, because once you patch it. And then you go back a couple months later and then you have to patch it again and keep patching it. It's just the money you would have just spent the first time.
100%.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But invest in your own knowledge. Guaranteed, you will reap the reward. Tenfold. I'm a big advocate of it of investing in your own development. I pay for courses all the time. I read.
And so you continuously just go through your
I spend thousands of pounds on learning.
Are there any specific like academies online where you'd say people should look at to get further training and understanding on property?
There's a company called Touchstone, who was the first company I invested in terms of my own personal development. And through the knowledge I gained there, I got my first investment property. Second company I invested into my own development is a company called Property Wealth Systems.
Okay.
They're very similar. But the learning style is quite different.
It's different, okay.
Which did you prefer?
Honestly, I don't really know. I've gained value from both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, the first one got my first property. Second got my second one. So I've won
either way.
Yeah. But it's not. What I would say is it's not cheap. You're going to be spending real money.
Yeah. It's funny that real money.
You're going to be spending real money. But as long as you apply yourself, you'll get that X-fold. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Understanding things you're investing in yourself, you know?
Yeah. It's necessary. But I think...
I was going to say, first of all, I feel like we're being rude because he's wined out. So
I know. I was thinking. I didn't even notice that you were like...
That's the first thing. So we're going to pour him another glass of wine.
We don't want women in wine to be stingy on the wine.
Honestly.
Okay, let's hope I don't spill
But I think we've touched on a few things in terms of making sure that you actually have money in terms of not just for the property that you're putting forward, but again, having them for additional fees. Educating yourself is extremely important. What else did we touch on? The difference between like the residential and investment properties. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we kind of discussed?
We covered quite a few.
Yeah, we covered quite a few. But it's so funny because it's so technical because both of you work in property. So I'm like, I hope we all get it.
It's, I mean, like, ultimately we want people to be able to comment, share, feedback, let us know if you want to know anything further because there is so much to cover in property.
It's such a big topic.
It's such a vast kind of industry. The type of property I do is slightly different to what Prince does and would be different to what somebody else does.
Yeah.
So there's so much ground to cover, all very relevant, but there's so much ground to cover, and it's hard to get it all in this one episode. So if you guys want to see another episode, please let us know.
What I'll say is we very superficially touched on this.
Yeah.
So what we've said, I wouldn't say just go and
you're
run
not
with
go and buy a property today.
Do your research or ask questions. We're
talk to
more than
people,
happy to, like I said, refer people from our power team and this, that, and the other.
I love that.
Do your research and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because like I said, a lot of the stuff that's out there is very superficial.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand before you start parting with money.
Yeah.
And again, when I said about, investing in yourself with courses and this, that, and the other, you don't necessarily have to go that route and spend thousands. Buy books. It's going to cost you 10, 15 quid. I mean, there's people on YouTube who are giving valuable information away.
E.g. Women, Wine and Wisdom.
Absolutely.
This kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I say just try and have a good understanding of the process before you start that journey. And property is so extensive. To the point where we're as a company starting to move into investing in commercial property, new build developments, land acquisition, all that kind of stuff. So it's so wide. There's so much you can do with property from an investment standpoint. Even if you are a person who doesn't necessarily want to buy your own home and invest that way, you can invest in people who are investing in property. My company takes.
Why do I feel like you have basically told me this before, Naomi?
Because I know firsthand that that's something that you've done. And so it's an opportunity for people to invest. If they can't come up with the full amount of money, but you want to be a part of a project, then you can partner with other people to invest in projects that they're also looking to invest in. But where can people find you, Prince? Because a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God.
And he's got to find my projects on his hat and his jumper. So
so
my construction company is Find My Project Limited. We do commercial fit outs and renovations. We do domestic renovations. We do ground up development projects for our clients. New builds, anything construction related. The construction side of our company does. And then the investment side of our business invests in property. And again, it's residential, it's commercial, conversions, land acquisition, etc. And we take investments from people who don't necessarily want to invest themselves, but they have some money and want to invest for a return. The returns are different, depends on how much you invest, but it's a conversation we can have. There are other people who do this as well. But again, when you are investing with somebody, make sure you do your due diligence.
Absolutely.
Make sure you know that your money is going to somebody who is going to utilize it properly. As for where you can find me, I'm not active on social media
at all. We've been having this conversation behind the scenes, being like, when are you going to get active?
I'm really not active on social media. I do need to, but yeah, if anybody gets in touch with you guys and wants to have a conversation with me,
we'll definitely
use your power team. We'll definitely put them in touch with you. But thank you so much for coming down. Again, guys, if you really want to know more about property or any of the points that Prince covered, please get in touch. We are happy to bring him back. Hopefully he's happy to come back. We'll make sure your wine is filled to the top next time. But we hope you have enjoyed this episode. We've covered quite a lot here. We hope you've taken a lot from this. But if you do want us to go over anything more in further detail, please do let us know. Definitely comment.
Drop us a comment, exactly. Or just DM us. We'll reply, don't worry.
We're friendly. We don't bite.
Well,
Bye,
thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.